raise your hand, please, if you're a judge, please. If you're from Activision, thank you. Thank you, sir. Very kindly. From Mr. Snicket. He sends his regards. Thank you. Mr. Snicket was under the impression that you would be conveniently located together. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an urgent telegram from Mr. Snicket himself. Dearest sirs and madams of Activision, if you want to retain any faith in humanity that every person is redeemable, I advise you to apply the earplugs provided now and firmly close your eyes. If you must persist in the folly of learning about the despicable character of Count Olaf, then I grieve for you. I am deeply sorry that I am not able to attend the presentation by the fine, if glumly named people of Raven Software. However, I must continue to attend to my research of the ill-fated Baudelaire children in the cavern of the consumptive chipmunks. With all due respect, Lemony Snicket. Now, if you'll excuse me, I must attend to the next telegram from Mr. Snicket, but I urge you to not listen any further to the people of Raven Software.
Greetings, my good financiers to be. I, as most of you should know, am Count Olaf, and I am here today to speak to you about a very promising opportunity. We start with a very simple proposition. Bad equals good. It is not as complicated as it sounds. The important thing to understand when you think about the existing Lemony Snicket franchise is that I, the most and perhaps only important character in the entire property, have been misrepresented. I have been made evil. And if wanting the money of people that isn't mine is evil, well then fine. Fine, I'm evil. So be it. But the truth is that it is fun to be bad. And if you are making games, and I understand that to be the business that you are in, then you must be bad. We must be bad. So, I am here to tell you about my story, in hopes that you will help me tell that story to others. That's me on the right. That's how I'm seen now. But I wasn't always that way, nor was I always bald. No, once I had a fine head of hair, and beautiful, beautiful eyebrows. You have to understand that I, too, was an orphan. It's not absolutely random that I hate them the way I do. It's not absolutely logical either. But this is irrelevant. What is relevant is the story that I hope to tell with your help. The story of how I grew up and became a rogue in the streets of an unnamed city, which may or may not be Boston. Now, as you know, there are 13 books in the entire Lemony Snicket franchise. Lemony Snicket feels that I am an evildoer and perhaps has never given me a fair shake. But this is not the case. I intend to tell the story of growing up and learning in the streets how to fend for myself, how to lie to people, how to kidnap people, how to bribe and blackmail and, as necessary, murder people. These things aren't as bad as they sound, and you'll find this out. My story is an interesting one, as I think you'll learn, and you'll agree. As I grew, I went from small petty crime jobs on the streets of the unnamed city of Boston to larger ventures, joining the VFD, an organization for which there is no known meaning. Over the course of my career, I came to schism the VFD, something that has been alluded to but never addressed in full in the Lemony Snicket books, and presents a very promising narrative twist to be uncovered. In the last half of my chronicle, as everyone knows, I came into conflict with the Baudelaire children, who are known as the quote-unquote stars of the Lemony Snicket franchise. Because they're young. Because they don't have parents. I didn't have parents. I could be famous. So, the important thing here is to understand who I really am, not who I've been presented as. This is my true face. This is who I am today.
I beg you not to do this. Mr. Snicket begs you not to do this.
We at Raven need to present to the fine folks. Oh, good, everyone's here. Fantastic, fantastic. I'm from Raven Software. I'm the director of business development. Here's our artistic lead. This is Mr. Snicket's representative. And let's just continue ahead here. Where's that lead designer? Well, somewhere. Raven, as you know, has worked with Activision for a number of years. We've been developing games for Activision for a while, including the X-Men Legends games and Soldier of Fortune. And Activision, you of course, the reason we're approaching this idea for a game is because you are in fact the rights holders to all Lemony Snicket games. But in addition to which, just as important is the fact that you have a history of innovation and of telling multiple narratives. With both the Spider-Man games and the Ultimate Spider-Man series, you're in fact willing to expand upon different narratives, different ideas, and different ways of presenting a story. Now, the time is now for a Lemony Snicket game. The final book will come out in October. Then we expect the complete box set of all the 13 books to come out the next October. And that is when we're hoping to release the game. We should be completely on track for that, assuming we get funding quickly. And there's possibility for cross-marketing with books. That's good for the books, it's good for the publishers of the books, that's good for you, that's good for us. It's good for everyone, really. The game will be rated E10+, which is the same way that the books, the same target demographic as the books, distributed for all systems, distributed via major retailers. One of the exciting things I want to talk about with cross-marketing is the idea of maybe including the demo discs with the complete box set, or maybe in the bookstores accompanying the complete box set. And when I say all the major systems, that's the next generation consoles that will be prominent at that point. And having worked with Raven, you'll know this, but we have the capabilities now in-house to produce this game. Oh, our lead designer's here. Great. I didn't see you before. That's fantastic. I'm glad you could join us. Right now we'll have our lead artist tell us a little bit about the feeling of the game.
All right, darlings. It's time to focus your attentions on me. Thank you. Anyway, I'm here to talk to you about the fabulous art and audio and all the effects, that wonderful stuff that makes the game experience this game so unique and wonderful. First of all, we're utilizing the wonderful cell coloring technique in this game, which is, in comparison to 3D graphics today, is rather unique. Second of all, we're using the wonderful, talented art of one Brett Hallquist, who illustrated the book series that we all love and adore. Thirdly, the music for this music is being composed and performed by the inestimable Mr. Handler, who is Lemony Snicket's representative, and his companion, who represent Magnetic. What's the name of that again?
Magnetic Fields.
Magnetic Fields, of course, is university. Anyway, so the music is by these wonderful, wonderful people, and in all respects, it's a beautiful game in the neo-Gothic, neo-Art Deco style. It's rather unique, something that you don't quite see often. And you follow Count Olaf, the inestimable Count Olaf, through this game, seeing his side of the story, rather than Mr. Lemony Snicket's side of the story, from a third-person perspective. And, in a twist of events, unlike most games, as Count Olaf succeeds in the game, the colors will grow darker as his evil spreads across the land. Not that evil is a bad thing in this game, it's just, showing things maturing in a way. Well, also, the great thing that we have got is that Mr. Handler has already given us permission to make this game, and is offering to help us with making this game. He's giving us guidance and keeping the story coherent. And he's already worked on several projects related to this series and is known to be very easy to work with. And therefore, we're looking forward to working with Mr. Handler on this project. Well, I think that's about all for now. I think our new designer was hoping to talk to you about some of the aspects of our game.
Yes, well, thank you. My name's Chaz Olafson. I came to Ravensoft about 3 months ago with a little idea for them. Thought it might be fun to try something new. Take something that people are already familiar with. Show them the truth about it. So, I couldn't think of anyone better than that great folk legendary hero, Count Olaf. I know that if I could be anyone other than myself, that is who I would want to be. Let me tell you what we've conceived for players of this game. Oh, no, not yet. You start at Olaf's desk in the morning. You have choices of things you can do. The items, though this is a rough concept sketch, we haven't been able to do the final proofs yet. You have a Rolodex of sorts, where you can see the names and information about all of your various criminal accomplices, hypnotists who can help you coerce people into doing things they don't want, getaway drivers who can provide you with a speedy retreat from the scene of a small exploit, anything you might need, actors, dancers, pickpockets, assassins, whatever. It's good. In the middle, we have the most important item, the Count Olaf scrapbook. After each mission that you go on, you are evaluated, most importantly, on style. Because we all know that Count Olaf is the most stylish villain who ever lived. Therefore, if you can come up with a particularly clever way to utilize the techniques that are available to you, you will gain more attention. And that, of course, is what matters. After each mission completed, you find the newspaper clippings the following day. They go in the book. The larger the clipping, the better you've done. But of course, you can always choose to try again if the clipping is not large enough to suit you, or you can simply retell the story so that it sounds better. A few sample screens. The Rolodex, you can see the name, albeit not a particularly good likeness, of one of your accomplices. We have Billy Bob, whose occupation is crook. His preferred contact method, signal fire. And, I can hardly read that with these glasses. Ah yes, the cost of $50. It's about as simple as it looks. More fun is the disguise mode, which is of course at the heart of Olaf's genius. Throughout the game, both by buying items, by purloining items, by stealing items, by grabbing items when no one happens to be using them, you can gain more disguise items. This is very important. There are a variety of things that members of the VFD are taught to use, or so we're told. I wouldn't know, of course. Members of the VFD are given a wide array of costuming lessons to disguise themselves for any possible purpose. In our case, our heroic Count Olaf can turn himself into anything from a barbecue chef, to a detective, to an old fisherman. Anything a situation might call for, the more creative the better. As you find more costume pieces throughout the game, you may find yourself returning to earlier, seemingly simpler objectives, and completing them in ever more stylish, impressive, and legendary ways. Well, beyond that, once you choose a mission for the day, if you happen to be playing a new mission, which will appear on your dastardly deeds to-do list, perhaps after you snoop in an alley and overhear conversation about a new mark in town, as they're called, or after you read the newspaper and see that there's a heist waiting for a player, you can go out, and the next step becomes something similar to what most of you will understand as a stealth and puzzle game. I'm told that there was once a game called Monkey Island, very much like this. You will snoop on people, you will blackmail and bribe people, you will coerce people, and ultimately, you will get what you want. There really isn't much more to say about it. Its genius is best understood in its execution.
Are you people really, are you going to listen to this? This is a tale of woe. You must rescue these millions and millions of people.
Dollars, millions of dollars.
Millions?
The millions of dollars. That's what we promise here. The development costs very low for this game. Very nice. We have these people in house. Breakdown here of what Raven can do for you. I'd be glad to go over this in more detail later. Of course, Activision, in sponsoring this, there's a few more development costs from Activision's side, mostly on testers, really, is the numbers to ensure the quality of the game. But the fabulous thing is our break-even point. How many we sell of this game? It's about that 450,000 number, which, when you take the readership of Lemony Snicket's works, is less than 6% of how much of the readership, what we estimate. So that's the minimum. That's the base. But really, the fun starts because we say, well, we're not just going to get Lemony Snicket fans. We're going to get other game players. We're going to get more than 6% of Lemony Snicket fans. And this is our conservative estimate. So this is about $3 million for Activision and for Raven as well, of course. There's a few other things about the franchise that you should realize. First 11 books have spent a long time on the New York Times bestseller list. There's over 40 million copies worldwide. It's very popular with both children and adults. It's knocked Harry Potter off the bestseller charts a few times, give you an impression of what that is.
Millions of people.
Millions of people. Yes, millions of people. Excellent, excellent. Actually, our lead developer has prepared a short video on just how powerful this is. That's not right. You know, my lead developer helped me out with the.
We'll try this again. We'll try this again.
Oh, hello. You know, Olaf and I, we go way back. He can teach you a few things if you ask him right. About the ladies.
Oh, well, I have purchased every one of the Lemony Snicket books, and I have never been sorry. No, never been sorry.
I mean, the thing is, I really don't get much time with my kids, you know? And they're always off reading and stuff. But I feel like these Count Olaf books, there's something I can really enjoy with them, you know? I mean, the writing is certainly at a level where they can understand it, and they find the events to be really entertaining. But I also think there are a lot of jokes in there that are meant to be especially for adults, you know? Lots of references to literature and authors and things like that. They call him Olaf. With the Lemony Snicket series. Perhaps the best way to naturally extend the property is to have more details in the world across media. By answering unanswered questions and hinting at.
This is actually the director of the Comparative Misery Studies program.
University you were fleshing out. I think that the story of Olaf is uniquely suited to fulfill the promise of a truly transmedial story.
Well, you know, my men, we can't read, but if we could, we'd like that scallywag Olaf. Yarr. We men out in the field, we like to read the adventures of Count Olaf. We figure, the way we see it, those Baudelaire children, if they can survive in their miserable circumstances, the least we can do is stay alive long enough to defend the country that gave birth to that author who wrote about it.
If anybody Activision says that, I just want to say that I think Count Olaf is extremely handsome. And I know that if this game existed, I'd certainly buy it for my children.
Hell, man, I mean, I gotta tell you, I know that as a member of the public trust, I'm supposed to go out and help people, putting out fires and stuff, but I gotta tell you, I read about the adventures of that Count Olaf, and I think, man, being bad is a lot more fun, you know? You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking, hell, I mean, last week I almost started a couple fires myself and then had to put them out. It was ridiculous.
The Count Olaf, he is a wonderful lover, but not such a gentleman. It seems to me that with the success of the Lemony Snicket franchise and the marketability of someone as charismatic and trustworthy as the Count, you could hardly go wrong turning it into a feature franchise. I think there would be a tremendous profit margin.
You might try those. I've been reading all the books of this Olaf chap. I gotta say, he's a jolly good explorer. Sets a role model for us all out in the jungle when we're fighting with the animals.
If you look at the existing franchises built around Lemony Snicket, it has all the hallmarks needed to become a groundbreaking transmedia phenomenon. You have a series of books that have developed an enormous international fan base, selling more than 40 million copies. You have an author who may or may not be fictional himself, which already takes the franchise into the territory of alternative reality gaming.
Oh yes, I've been reading all of the Lemony Snicket books, and I think this Count Olaf makes life very exciting. Well, I do not play the video games, but if I did, I think this Olaf would be a very good character to play, and I think you should make the game. Do not let the costume confuse you. I do not like torturing the bulls. I like torturing the orphans. Viva la Olaf!
The best thing about these books is really that Count Olaf. I mean, he's really quite handsome, isn't he? I mean, the thing is, like, I had a really hard childhood, and Olaf, he's such a great actor. He's always been such an inspiration to me. I mean, I think this game, or whatever it is, this is the least you guys at Activision could do for him, don't you think?
That Count Olaf sure is a man for all seasons, sir, yes, sir!
Never a show off. And you have several transmedia extension books already released and coming out later this year, which do not directly advance the events of the master narrative, but instead provide the reader who is more and more becoming a participant or even a co-creator in the convergent media process with information that deepens his emotional connection with the characters and their adventures. I think it's safe to say that by focusing the action of the game on the experiences of Count Olaf, who, in my expert opinion, has always been the most interesting character anyway, that the player of the game really does become an active co-conspirator in the transmedia convergence process.
The fact is, I don't talk about it often, but I was an orphan once. And Olaf, well, he makes me think about what could have been. Here's to you, old friend.
Okay, we have to cut now.
That's it was incredible that you've got such a diverse group of people to interview. Thank you for making that video, lead designer. And we'll take any questions.
Well, I've been dazzled by the testimonials, they're very convincing. I'd like to know a little more about the sound design for this game. Aside from you've located where the music is coming from, but how do you plan to use sound?
There would be spoken dialogue between Count Olaf and other characters. There will also be sound effects in the stands, background noises. But the music itself will enhance the environment a lot because it just moves accordingly.
Did I miss the platforms?
It's going to be for all the next generation consoles. So that's the Xbox 360, the Nintendo Revolution, and the PlayStation 4. Probably not for this game, but in future games it's possible we could. We will be developing most of our own engine for this, and so it becomes very easy to make the next sequel. Anything else?
So at Ravensoft, you guys have classically created shooters and action adventure games. How do you think those your portfolio lines up with doing a project like this?
Well, there's the main thing that Ravensoft software has done across all of this has been trying to create an engaging experience in sort of a new way. The X-Men Legends games were sort of a action RPG, and in many ways we're planning on the team that just finished X-Men Legends 2 is now available, and we're hoping to use that team from within us. And many of the elements here are similar in action style. The way of sort of organizing the costumes is sort of a similar conceptual thing, if not a similar mechanic. And then the sort of quickness of action and interest in that is actually very similar.
Yes, you mentioned a comparison to the game Monkey Island. And while I'm personally a fan of the genre, I'm a little concerned about the comparison given that that particular kind of subgenre of pure adventure games has declined in popularity. But it sounds like you've also mentioned some more action-oriented elements. Are there other titles you could compare it to that you think might be more current titles that would be comparable?
Well, for the different styles of play, actually we're for some of the conversation pieces, Olaf's Disguise and Fooling People, there isn't a game currently out that really does that sort of emotional connection. There's, I believe, a Boston area company that's exploring some of this that we're hoping to sort of, but they're coming out with the game, so that'll be a comparison to the future. Some of the sort of sneaking around elements might be more like a game like Thief, or perhaps even some of the later Metal Gear games. But it's not quite that. It's not quite the same. It's hard to make an analogy when we're doing this, combining this narrative structure, this deep narrative structure, with the other elements.
Okay. So do you expect to directly compete with this game that will be coming out from this local Boston company, or?
No.
So you mentioned style is going to be a criteria for evaluation. Can you tell us a little more about how that criteria would work in a game form?
Can you specify that?
Well, you said the standard, someone said that the standard of measurement for your performance missions is style. And I'm just wondering how the game evaluates style.
I don't think we've worked out all the basic mechanics, all the background mechanics completely, but do you want to address this?
Well, we are operating in part on what we understand to be VFD guidelines, which do in fact exist for the best way to carry out any particular crime. But in general, the more flamboyant or
Increasingly
noticeable
complex ways.
In general, the more flamboyant you manage to be, the more roles you can assume in the process, the more directly in the public eye you can manage to dazzle the mark, the better.
We worked on the business model. Why are we at retail above $50? Why are we at 60? Why are we giving it a retail?
So next generation consoles, titles that are currently released, 85% of them that are out right now are
Targeted to adults, and this is a
are
kids title.
at the $60 range. We actually feel this is
Sir, woe is for everyone.
woe is for everyone. But in addition to which, it may actually vary across the consoles to some degree. If the Revolution pitches itself as a slightly lower price, but what it looks like right now is that the $50 price range for the next generation games, upon release, that may actually be a sign of a lower quality game, and we want to signal that this is in fact a high quality game, as it is.
I also think it's very important to not fall into the trap of thinking that crime is any form of child's play. It would be deceiving to think that because we are starting children on this game at an early age, which from my own experience, well, the experience of friends, I understand can be a very productive process. We believe that this is a game you can continue playing probably well into the late 20s and early 30s, and continue to find newer and more interesting ways of moving through the game and opening up new options.
Movie studios call this vertical programming.
I'm going to have to cut us off at this point. Thank you very much.
All right, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for inviting us here today to COE. We're here today to pitch a product which we believe will marry all of our collective interests and allow us to develop together a truly transmedia approach to narrative gaming. My name's Elliot Dunville. I'm the game designer. This is Richard Hughes. Sorry, my apologies. Richard Hughes is over there. He is in fact in charge of game mechanics. We have Sabrina Newman just here, and Jeffrey Long, our producer. And together we are hand to mouth. So, if you'll forgive me for using my notes, but we have a lot of quite dense information to get through in a very short space of time. So, in this currently stagnating market between generations of platforms, the challenge ahead for all of us, as far as the next generation era goes, is not simply to make existing types of familiar games but better looking. On the contrary, we believe that the key to sustaining and expanding the market is both within game innovation within game development itself and from exploiting the new opportunities in the marketplace, which come from this emerging transmedia property model. Our game that we're going to pitch to you today is naturally enough, therefore, from an existing IP, which we are in no doubt about as to its potential success in terms of an adaptation into a game and a broader transmedia appeal. So let's take a look at what we're talking about. Now, I think it's appropriate at this point to mention that in terms of transmedia appeal and broad audience, that trailer that we just watched has been made by a fan, and we one of, I think, quite a few which you can find online, which kind of expresses the quality of independent filmmaking, or sort of not so much contemporary mainstream cinema appeal, maintaining young contemporary demographic. So we believe that Yojimbo is a perfect property for us to consider in terms of game development for a number of reasons. The movie itself is fundamentally about game playing, and to that end, all of the game objectives. So we have two rival factions who are playing one against another for control of the town in which this game is set. In addition, the heads of these factions are playing a game with one another as to who can recruit us as the main character. And really, Yojimbo, which is Japanese for bodyguard, and is a nameless character, is a samurai warrior. And his purpose within the game is to exist in kind of external state to a very closed narrative system, and is really the main elements, control of which will potentially provide one side or the other with all the leverage they need to run the town as they see fit. So, as far as the game goes, we have three main potential options, each of which has a variation of the theme. You can help one boss kill the other, or vice versa, or you can find a way to neutralize them both and leave the town free from oppression, essentially. And how does this work? Well, what we're calling this is an autonomous social ecosystem. And what this means is that we essentially have a closed system which is dependent upon a hierarchy of 5 levels, ranging from villagers who are neutral to calling minions, who are essentially the lowest rung on the criminal ladder. Then above that are lieutenants, generals, and then finally the bosses. And within that system, every character operates with 5 basic character traits: honor, strength, conviction, acuity, and worth. All of which are designed to reinforce both the system itself in terms of maintaining the hierarchy with the individual characters playing their respective roles, as well as maintaining a consistent pattern of character interaction from both NPC to NPC and NPC to player and player to NPC. So the model, in essence, the model will run as a closed system without our input. The goal of the game is to affect the resolution of the system in a number of different ways. So the second reason we're thinking that this would be perfect, the 5 categories we picked are not arbitrary by any essence. Our main goal is to remain as faithfully true to the IP as possible. So in a sense, what we try to do at every stage is boil down the themes inherent to the narrative and to the essential samurai mantra as easily as possible. So rather than having a kind of positive-negative system, it's the purely positive and negative system that represents these 5 traits. What we've built into the system, which we're quite excited about, is this idea that in addition to actual attributes, you have truth versus perception, which is the fundamental essence of the games that are being played, both within the real narrative and within the system that we're proposing. So in essence, it's as much about what you project of your character in the game as what you actually do. And that relates to all the individual characters, the NPCs, as well as ourselves within the interaction model. So, how does it play? We're going to take a look at this and pass you over to Sabrina Newman and Richard Hughes, who will take it from here.
Sabrina, would you please?
Okay, well, all right. We're going to take a look at sort of what your average gameplay situation is going to be when you're in the middle of the game. So, a sample scenario here. This is based on a scenario found in the movie, but we found this very typical of what you're going to be finding in the game. So, a pair of Ushitora, one of the bosses, drunken thugs are indiscreet about some sensitive information, and we see our samurai heroes in the background overhearing this. So, in some encounter, you walk into the pub here, and you overhear this conversation. So, you can act on it, and you follow them out, and you work them into a confession of exactly what it is they're hiding. So, now you've worked that out of them. You deliver them to the opposite boss. not their boss, the opposite boss, for a tidy sum, of course. So you've wrapped up a nice thing for yourself there. Then go back across town to their boss and say, oh, geez, you know what? Your guys got captured. I don't know how this happened, but shucks. Say that's some good information. How about some gold? And so now you've got another tiny game, which is awesome. And basically, that's the kind of thing you'd be doing, where you go to both sides and play them against each other, and really you're the winner here. Right, but how does it actually play? That's the situation. Mechanics now, Richard.
Mechanically, we're very excited about the innovations we've produced in this game. I'm going to pull my notes. I should be able to entertain you properly. This is an ironic moment. Okay, simply put, we have developed unlike most adventure games, which either use a branch and path conversation system like for example, Fable, or for another example, Fable's expression system, both of which are limiting to characters' expression. We've developed a system which we can use to very quickly communicate virtually any information imaginable to any piece of NPC in the game. The system works by very quickly navigating a tree of all possible communications between your player and the NPC. This is in fact the same system that the NPCs use to communicate with each other. As he described, it's a self-sustained system, so information passes from character to character, whether you're involved or not. But in this one, we're interested in how he gets the information out of the characters. He begins by selecting to speaking at length rather than making a brief gesture. And from there, he selects that he explains that he wants information. From there, you continue to elaborate on detail, what they were doing, and from there you continue to elaborate on how you get that information out of them, specific emotional slants you can take. You can continue, this way you can very quickly elaborate to a very specific level of detail what you want to communicate. You can communicate everything from, how is your mother doing, to, I want you to accompany me to assassinate Ushitoro. And you can all do these things with a series of very simple directional gestures. Of course, that's just the talking. And once these thugs are alerted to the fact that they now have to fight for their lives or be delivered to their rival, it comes to swords. And for the sword system, I've come up with a very simple and intuitive system I call the gestural combat system, in which you view your characters from a top-down view, isometric, and simply highlight your player character, who is portrayed by Sabrina, and direct gesture away from them to attack, gesture into them to defend, and gesture around them to throw. By combining these three simple motions, you can defend and counterattack, defend and quickly turn that into a throw enemies at your opponents. The combinations are almost limitless. But in this fashion, combat becomes both strategic in that you can manipulate advanced combos to control the battlefield, and very tactical because you can make fast, quick movements for frenetic action, the kind that gamers love. But beyond that, this system is ideal for exploiting the new opportunities of the Nintendo's Revolution game system. As you can see, I've been using this mock-up of a remote to control the action, but it works equally well with the stylus or mouse. But it's also very easy to port it over to a simple dual analog stick control system of the kind used in next-generation systems such as the PS3 and the Xbox. So it's no concern at all to have cross-platform compatibility. In addition, as we'll get into later, if we do decide to focus on the Nintendo Revolution, it offers up cross-platform interaction possibilities for the Nintendo DS. Now the question is, how does it look? And for that, I'll pass on to our producer.
Hello. So, given this question, how would the game look? Well, the problem with Nintendo, specifically, since we're talking so much about Revolution Control and whatnot, is that they're very, very defensive about letting people know how to develop their system so far. They've been a little, say, standoffish about giving us a development kit. So to that end, we're going to assume that the Revolution version is going to be as close as possible to what we would develop with the other two next-gen systems.
the look and feel for this particular type of game would be a combination of, say, The Godfather for Xbox 360 with Neo, which is the game that you guys are currently developing with the son of the director. So what we would like to do is combine the kind of samurai action on the bottom with the sort of realism and realistic faces and textures and things on the top. And there, once we get to that point, then we start to figure out how cameras work. We start to figure out how things like cinematography works. How do you reflect the genius of somebody like this in a video game system? And so we're going to try to use the hardware as well as we can to replicate classic cinema, so that we have both an interest in cineasts as well as martial artists enthusiasts as potential markets for this game. So, important statistics and projections to get into the business end of things. We would really like to be the first samurai game for the revolution. Therefore, we would like to use the same system that you guys are developing for Neo to drive the back end of the system. So that therefore we can then use some of the textures and some of the models and things, kind of port them over into our game, but by changing the color palette to be more of the blacks and whites and the kind of cool colors of Akira Kurosawa's original film. We kind of we repurpose the same technology to make it economically possible to create a game like this under a short time span. Age groups and target markets, like I said, we're looking to capture both cineasts and martial arts enthusiasts. We're kind of thinking, 13 to 35, 18 to 35. One of the beauties of doing this in black and white is that you get around the whole Mortal Kombat hump. Way back in the day, the big hallmark, for how violent a game was perceived to be was whether or not the blood was red. In black and white, it's black and white. Then we can bring it back down again for an ESRB rating of teen. Now, we are talking about the revolution of 360, the PS3, and the PC. However, one thing we thought would be really cool, if we can pull this off, is to use the DS as a possible training system. So that if you wanted to take your game with you on the train on the way to work and up your experience points in your sword play, you could do so. As far as the anticipated budget is concerned, like I said, aesthetically similar games on the schedule, Neo and the Godfather. Neo, as we've heard about your internal developments, has a budget of $28 million for both the film and the game. If we can reuse the existing technology, that should chop our budget. We don't have a reported budget for The Godfather, but rumors have it that it's 100+ programmers over at Activision working on this. Rights management, of course, if you all are working with the Kurosawa estate already, we're hoping that would kind of smooth the path there somewhat. Motion capture for the acting, we're guessing 150,000. It's probably on the conservative side. Right now, we're still kind of feeling out the hard business numbers of this. And we're really hoping to get somebody from Sloan to work with us on this. Music licensing fees, we're hoping to keep low by using classic feudal Japanese music but performed by contemporary performers. So we might be able to pull this off for as low as $5,000, depending on how excited the performers are to work in this system. So our anticipated budget, we're really going to try hard to pull it in for you for $5 million. Now, what do you all care about? Manga sales in the United States have catapulted to $125 million in 2005. The size of real estate in Borders alone for the manga section has exploded in the course of the last 4 years. We have seen what's called pop cosmopolitanism populate itself across younger generations with the Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Pokemon generations. We believe that yes, we're targeting this to 18 to 35-year-olds at the moment, but the market is only going to explode. And the beautiful thing about a property, a timeless property like this one, is that it's not going to have a shelf life like a regular movie, like Pitch Black, Chronicles of Riddick. It's a great game, people are really excited about when it comes out, but then as the movies kind of trickle into the DVD market, this is a timeless classic. This is one of the few movies on the IMDb top 125 films list that has not yet been developed into a video game. What you're seeing right now with companies like Activision is they're moving into classic films. You're seeing From Russia with Love. You're seeing The Godfather. This is continuing that trend. Similar Kawaii games, this Tango done very well. Your Dynasty Warriors 5 went platinum, selling over 1 million copies. We're hoping to ride that trend and fit in well with your existing stable. And again, this game has strong cross-genre appeal. We're hoping to grab little bits and pieces from strategy, action, adventure, and role-playing. If you combine those demographics, this represents 47.5% of the PC and video game markets. This is huge.
As the game mechanic, I can confidently say that all of these genres are safely and fully represented in our game design.
And we are, of course, perfecting aspects of Fable and KOTOR, two of the 20 top-selling games of 2004. We are seeing that previous successes like Lost are suggesting that the public is eager for more complex entertainment. This system is a little more complex than pure hack and slash. This is not Diablo. This is social engineering. This is training. This is art. This is grace. This is deceit. This is the life of a samurai in feudal Japan. Yeah, possible areas of expansion. You could extend it into additional towns as add-on packs, following the same business model as the Warcraft Frozen Throne. Or you could make sequel games based on other movies that include the same or similar character. And yeah, have you played The Sims? It's a great game. It's the same kind of concept I'm talking about. It doesn't have swords. Everything's better with swords.
Absolutely.
So, therefore, we thank you for your time, and we hope you enjoyed our presentation.
If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at this time.
Yes, lights of hand.
I think the idea that truth perception is very interesting, the 5 axes that you're measuring with characters. How in the mechanic, I didn't hear from your description of how the mechanic works, how do you reinforce or reveal which is truth and which is perception in relation to the player?
Essentially, what I didn't get a chance to elaborate on it further in my part of the presentation was that what we're relying on is this idea of a third-party agency. So as much of what you do is about being seen to be doing something by someone else. So in essence, if you are in combat with someone, obviously being in combat, fighting them, and whatever on comparatively different levels, like in most kind of games, has a knock-on effect in terms of you increasing your fighting skill or whatever. But it won't really do anything else for that unless someone has seen what you've done and you report it to someone else. So for example, if you're seen by a villager who is the lowest rung on the ladder, and he goes and tells, wow, this guy's really great, well, his reputation only carries this much. Whereas if someone higher up the food chain with a higher reputation level sees what you've done, reports it up through the system, your legend grows that much more. Similarly, in the social system, we want to try and give, we're not going to be unrealistic because people will often want to do more hack and slash than talking, but we want to give a good balance between the social system and the combat, and both in ways, as Sabrina was establishing the short example scenario. The essence of that is trying to get information through different tactics, either through intimidation or through coercion or some other kind of bribe, whatever it might be. All of those feed back into the character model and will adjust either your honor rating or one of the other things, which will then, depending again on who's been seeing you, how that's grown, will affect what you project to the world. And the two attributes that work most importantly together are acuity, which looks at your kind of insight into other people's characters, and your own personal conviction. So the more conviction you have, the stronger you project. It's like a multiplier. The stronger your conviction, the more you project your confidence, your other various attributes to the world. But if you're against someone of similar standing, they can obviously see through any kind of flannel, and they'll see you for who you really are. And that's the essence of the two systems.
Another aspect that we're quite proud of is the fact that in most games of this ilk, as you gain power by gaining experience, which is a rather big abstract thing. And we've embraced the abstraction. You gain power in this game by increasing your reputation. The more powerful people think you are, the more powerful you literally are. There were...
Yeah, that's most. I think just judges, right?
Yeah, just judges.
So you all said you're using a top-down view for your camera?
Isometric.
Isometric? Okay.
There's a lot of camera control. I mean, like in combat and stuff, depending on, we were talking about this, it has a pretty flexible camera system. For instance, in combat, you know, when you've got more guys around you, spreading out to a wider circumference, you want to pull the camera back at certain points, get it just of how many guys there are, then going closer, handle the guys that are close, and when there's one guy left, you know, you're right in there enjoying that in particular. So you can swing around.
You're certainly right about the explosion of interest in manga over the last few years, but do you have any reason to think that the interest in contemporary culture is translating into an interest in the more classic culture?
Well, I know there's one manga series in particular that's really popular that actually is largely based on this character, and I think in particular, this character, Lone Wolf and Cub, has a lot to do with the origins of this character, who is in turn based on this famous swordsman who was like legendary in Japan. So I think that direct interest in manga and anime translates to interest in Japanese culture, which translates to interest in older Japanese culture, which I think brings us back to Kurosawa films, which are widely known for that.
There's also the basic concept of when something becomes really popular in contemporary culture, a certain percentage of the people that are interested in it are going to go looking for the roots. And those people then tend to be the influentials that will then spread the word back to their friends. It's the same kind of concept with when I was a kid, that my friend Rob was a great musician. And we all looked to Rob to say, wow, your taste in music is the one that we're going to follow. And Rob wasn't just interested in, I gave myself here, Poison, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses. But when he started looking back into Jimi Hendrix and back into The Doors, then his group of happy little sheep that would follow him along in his musical trail would go back and buy those same CDs. And we're hoping that as the next culture, the next generation Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon group rises up, and they start looking back, where did this stuff come from? They're going to start looking back at directors like Akira Kurosawa. And then that culture will then spread amongst them.
And if I can just add one small thing. Additionally, I mean, on a purely pragmatic level, the kind of oriental flavored, martial arts based, all that kind of stuff has been part of the computer game landscape since the last 20 years. And so it's part of computer gaming generally. And sure, it's a percentage of the market, but it's ever present.
Well, you're careful to say that this would be the first samurai game for the revolution. Tell us how it compares to other samurai games already on the market, and how are those sold?
I'll handle this one. Most current samurai games have an emphasis on action over thought. There are two notable exceptions to this, Way of the Samurai and Way of the Samurai 2, both of which I believe were published by Koei, your company. However, these, I think, overreach slightly as they attempted to encompass too broad an area for the flexible attempt of gameplay. For the flexible gameplay we're attempting to emulate, whereas we're instead focusing on a very small area in extreme detail to provide a sort of sandbox.
Yeah, I'd just like to maybe follow a little bit on Alex's question. I mean, autonomous social ecosystem sounds really compelling and interesting. I'm interested in the talk-action relationship, and especially how talk is going to turn into things like worth and conviction. How does that work?
Both of you jump in. Essentially, to deal with the autonomous social ecosystem, it's like Richard said, it's a sandbox principle. So it's everything is designed with a view to a finite, very obvious number of possible outcomes in terms of the dialogue. To that end, what we're proposing is a reasonably basic syntax. So, I don't know if we can get the slides back.
Is that syntax scheduled for interaction, or is it from a larger palette that the player can pull from?
Well, to give an example, it would formulate something what?
Oh, the character defines relationships between what he wants, between what he knows and what he wants the other character to know, or vice versa. And he can form these relationships using the objects in the game, the people, certain rumors. For example, if you want to, like I said earlier, if you want to ask how someone's mother is doing, you'd highlight people with relations to them and highlight their mother and ask them for their status.
For an example, we would offer at each kind of point within the grammar, which would only be probably 3 or 4 steps long, simple things like I want, or I want to tell you, or something similar. And then beyond that, you have a similar number of next step options that relate, as Richard was saying, to a character sheet. I mean, a list of characters that you are familiar with in the game. So essentially this becomes, I want to know, and then say you click on a character as icon, say I want to know about Bushitora.
So how does this translate into something as nuanced as conviction or worth? The qualities that...
Conviction is largely an internal thing, produced from within each character. And though they can put forth a show of having more or less than they do, it's very difficult to actually raise it. The important thing about this system is that by itself, it's stable. It only goes into motion when you step in. Things happen when you're not there, but as a whole, things stay as they are socially.
One way you could affect conviction is the way that any of us could have our conviction affected, which is by introducing elements of doubt. If you could demonstrate that one of these characters, something wasn't what they thought it was. Like if you could demonstrate that their wife was cheating on them with somebody, and all of a sudden that throws a lot of the things that they would take for granted into doubt, and that might drop the conviction.
So your domain of possibilities is, I want to tell you your wife is having an affair? That would...
You'd have to come up with some
First you'd have to see, first you'd have to find out that her wife is having an affair, either from his wife, whoever his wife is having an affair with, or someone else who's seen that. This knowledge exists somewhere in the field of 100 or so characters in this village. And if you can find a way to make that information pass to you, you can make it pass to the villager in question. Basically, it's a sort of a give and take, a trading system, a little economy of knowledge, of rumors, and the effects those rumors have on the people who encounter them.
Did you mention where you are on the rights to this?
Koei already has the rights to Kurosawa and his works. But they're already collaborating with Kurosawa's son.
That's the reason why we were approaching Koei in the first place.
The game we were referring to, Neo, is work by Akira Kurosawa, which was never made into a movie and was recently unearthed by his son, and is being simultaneously made into a game and